are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. And we will make America great again.
Okay, it's game time, friends. It is game time. Welcome, pro-life leader Frank Pavone here, live with you on this election eve. It is the evening before Election Day. Now, the other day I had, of course, throughout this season, I've had the MAGA hat here. Let's see, I got the Make America Great Again. And then the other day I said, you know what, we're going to go double MAGA. So I put two of these hats on the table here. And now tonight, quadruple MAGA. Quadruple. Now you see here, first of all, because this means we have to redouble and then redouble again in these next 24 hours, our efforts to save America. And what we do is by getting out the vote. That's what it boils down to right now. I say a little bit tonight about some practical things we have to do and some practical thoughts we have to keep in mind and convey to others. 24 hours to save America. But let me tell you about the quadruple MAGA. So we've got this one here that says Make America Great Again, and then this one, Ultra MAGA, because that's what we proudly are. And it's Make America Great Again. It's we believe in the greatness of this country or not. And so it's really very, like President Trump says, it's like, what's complicated about that idea? Now, this one, Trump 2024, in God we trust. We've got to trust the Lord at this moment. It's so distressful, isn't it, to think about the point at which we stand now. Unbelievable. Now, this afternoon when I had the live prayer hour, some of you were on with me there at 3 o'clock, and I showed a clip that was when President Trump arrived back home after he was convicted by that communist show trial in New York. Shame on you, Alvin Bragg. Disgrace to America, disgrace to your profession, disgrace to New York City. He came back home and the patriots were lined up along the sidewalk and there was the flag flying, but it was upside down. That's the distress signal. So we commented on that earlier, and I'm putting out a separate standalone post of that on my social media. So make sure that you're following me at FR Frank Pavone on all the channels, on all the platforms. And you'll see that again. I think it just epitomizes the moment that we're in right now so perfectly, because we are very much aware that it is time for us to be sending that distress signal primarily to our fellow Americans to say, hey, let's rally. We've got to save this country. But also the jubilation of those people, the joy, the excitement of seeing President Trump. Why? Because he's leading this movement. He's the one standing in the way of those who want to take freedom away from us and our children. He's the one standing in their way, the globalist elites who have also infiltrated into the Catholic Church. And it's really such a disgrace what's going on. You know it as well as I. So Ultra MAGA, yeah, absolutely. And then this one here, Trump 24 three-peat. Now this red hat was given to me personally by Dr. Sebastian Gorka. You guys know Sebastian Gorka. He worked for President Trump, and I would think that in the next Trump term he'll work there again. A really great guy, and he has his own show called America First, and he has had me on multiple times. And not the last time, but the time before that I was on with him in his studio, he gave me this hat. So three-peat, right? So 2016, 2020, now 2024, Trump three-peat. What a blessing to American history. So look, we don't fool around about what we're saying and what we mean. Too many, there's a lot of events going on in these days, prayer events, educational events, election events, and you come out of them thinking, if you and I go to them, we come out of them thinking, hey, yeah, of course, I'm going to vote for President Trump. I'm going to vote Republican down the line, except that we have to come to that conclusion after we go to the prayer event, or we hear the homily in church, or we go to the online thing, and we say, oh, yeah, I guess that's what I have to do. We don't beat around the bush here. We go right straight to the point, and here it is. This is the point. This is what it is. And we should be unafraid to say that and to promote that and proclaim that. I know that's certainly something you are unafraid to do. So what we want to do here is go to the scriptures, as we always start with. I want to read from the prayer of Jesus the night before he died. And what a beautiful prayer for his followers, because it applies to all of us right here, right now, at this moment of both distress and opportunity for the United States of America. We're going to pray this prayer of Jesus for us. And then we're going to talk about some really practical things in terms of winning the victory. We've got 24 hours to win this victory. That's it. 24 hours from now, a lot of the polls will be closed. We have now officially entered, because I'm here on Eastern time, it's 8:06 p.m. Eastern time. We have now entered the last 24 hours of election 2024. Is game time. Most of you have voted already. I know that. The work's not finished. Bring more people tomorrow. Get them out to vote. Let's pray. John 17, starting with verse 11. Jesus prayed, Holy Father, keep them in your name, which you have given me, that they may be one even as we are one. While I was with them, I kept them in your name, which you have given me. I have guarded them, and not one of them has been lost, except the son of destruction, whom the scripture might be fulfilled. But now I am coming to you, and these things I speak in the world, that they may have my joy fulfilled in themselves. I have given them your word, and the world has hated them, because they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. They are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. Sanctify them in the truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. And for their sake, I consecrate myself, that they also may be sanctified in truth. Friends, that prayer, Jesus said for us, we can say it for ourselves. And notice the emphasis he puts on truth. That alone decides this election. I'm going to tell you something. Let's just think this through together. And by the way, I can see your comments. Let's deal with, you know what? I'm in a really combative mood here and a really excited mood, and we're going to win this thing to the dismay of the stupid enemies that we have. But look at Bruce J. Bruce, you kind of came to the wrong place, because now you're going to be an example. So Bruce J., who knows what planet he's from. So priests are all in for a sexual predator. Gosh, who could have predicted that? I'll tell you who could have predicted that. Think back to Jimmy Carter versus Ronald Reagan. So if you're so sanctimonious there, Bruce J., let me know what church you belong to, or what planet you came from first. Is really what I want to know. And what political party? Oh, wait a minute. No, thanks. You don't have to tell me that. We are going to, you know what we're going to do tomorrow? The Democrat machine, you know those big plugs that like the building we're in here used to be a printing business, and you look in the wall and you see those, those big, I don't know what they're called, big round, gigantic electric outlets. And you got these big, thick, you need two hands to pull them out if you can even do that. Tomorrow's the day, Bruce. I mean, we should put your name, actually, I'm going to inscribe your name on the thing, right? The electrical outlet, because we're going to pull it out. We're pulling the plug tomorrow on the deep state, the Democrat machine. You know when you have a big machine running and then, when you got those big power levers and you turn them off, and what do you hear? Boom. Mark my words. All in for a sexual predator? Really? Sounds sort of judgmental, doesn't it? I mean, shall we do a group confession here? And you could start, Bruce, since you're bringing it up. Tell us what your sins are in the past, and we'll define your whole life by some off-color comment that you made in the past, maybe something that you did. Maybe it's sexual, maybe it's not, maybe you stole something, maybe you manipulated somebody, maybe you cheated. That's just, and we could do like a group confession. But from now on, everyone's life will be defined by their sins. So, you had Ronald Reagan versus Jimmy Carter. Who do you think a sanctimonious Christian might be led to vote for? Let's see, Jimmy Carter, Baptist, practicing his faith, talking about it, Sunday school teacher. Ronald Reagan, divorced. Hollywood, Hollywood is so corrupt. He was a Hollywood actor. And who are you going to vote for president? The Christians and the priests and the believers and the Bible-believing people, not once but twice, and in like historic landslides, elected not the Sunday school Baptist teacher, but the divorced former Hollywood actor. Gee, to use your words, gosh, who would have predicted that? It's easy, Bruce. It's really easy. You see, because if you care at all about the Word of God, about being holy, about the things that God wants, if you care at all about that, well, then you're not going to look in the past at what you think. I'm not saying he did anything. What you think somebody's sins are, of course, you got to get that straight first, because do not judge is, they didn't erase it yet from the Bible. No, because this is my version of the Bible, not yours. They didn't erase the do not judge part. But putting that aside for a moment, let's say that people did all the sins that you think they did. You're not going to take something that somebody did in the past and say, that's going to prevent me from supporting this person for president, but then not take account of what they're going to do when they're in the office of president. That's going to affect believers, the morality of the nation. How? By laws, executive orders, and court decisions, because the president chooses not tens, not dozens, not scores, but hundreds of federal judges that stay in office for how long, Bruce? Tell us. Yes, for life. For life. So in other words, let's see if this makes any sense. Again, even thinking that something is true, which you have no idea whether it's true or not. So I committed a sin 20 years ago. Now I'm running for president, and I have a chance to put judges on the courts who are going to say churches have more freedom, and in fact, individual believers have more freedom to preach sexual morality, which apparently, Bruce, you're an expert in, and you really, you're on a crusade now, to eliminate sexual immorality from not only the United States, but I know you got a big heart. You want to eliminate it from the entire planet. So good for you. We're cheering you on. And so sexual immorality is really terrible, right? It's really terrible. So eradicate it from the planet. How in the world do you do that? Well, one of the things you could do is that you could give the churches more power. I was just with President Trump last Monday, a week ago today. We were in Georgia, and we had a prayer service together. And there he was, and we prayed over him. And he made it clear in that service once again that contrary to the Democrats who want to, they want to put a muzzle on us when we try to speak. Priests, laity, religious leaders, that's the Democrat policy. You can't make sense of what they're saying because they muzzle them. Censorship online, censorship in the pulpit. And yet President Trump wants to give more power to the clergy and the churches, and he's going to appoint judges, and he did appoint judges who already judged, who already ruled to increase religious freedom in the United States, whether it's Coach Kennedy praying aloud out on the, praying publicly out on the ball field. And this faith of one encourages the faith of all, telling us as clergy that we could speak up in the pulpit and don't worry about a Department of Justice that, let's see, I don't know, under the Obama-Harris administration, oh yeah, that's right. They spy on Catholics, they throw pro-life people into jail, they raid the house of Mark Houck in Philadelphia with guns drawn at 6 o'clock in the morning and haul him off under arrest for what? Praying. Oh, wait, they're praying on a public sidewalk. They got pro-lifers in jail right now. President Trump says, hey, I'm going to get them out of there because I want them back on the sidewalk praying. Wake up, Bruce. Wake up. You know, isn't America a great place? We could have a broadcast like this and even idiots can come on and say idiotic, stupid stuff and we can all talk about it. See, we wouldn't want to suppress Bruce's speech. He has a right to be an idiot. We wouldn't want to suppress that because it's only when these other people speak the idiocy that we can correct it by the truth. And when somebody is saying something that's not true, the freedom we want to have is we don't want the government to suppress the non-truth. We want the government to increase the power of everybody to speak so that the people who have the truth can correct those who are in error, and hopefully they listen to one another and learn something. So learn this. Yes, we're with President Trump because if you believe in things like sexual morality, or that maybe the church should be effective in its work of making people holy, and maybe, let's think about it. Oh, yes, schools where religious groups are going to be there, thanks to Bruce, of course, Bruce Almighty. You ever see that program, Bruce Almighty? Maybe this is the same guy. Isn't it great if you empower schools that are going to teach virtue to the children and make sure that by God's grace, by learning his word, by enabling parents to be able to afford to send their children to a school where virtuous people are going to teach virtue instead of a failing public school like Bruce's party represents that are going to teach them vice. Let Planned Parenthood come in and tell them, hey, you see, Bruce, when Planned Parenthood comes in and talks to our kids in the schools, you know what they tell them about human sexuality? That is meaningless. It's as flat as this piece of paper, and it has no moral content. So what they're doing is they're actually fostering sexual immorality, which you seem not to like, sexual predator. As a matter of fact, Planned Parenthood, they are sexual predators. It's the Democrats that fund them, bring them into our schools, and have them talk to the kids. In fact, the Democrats bring in drag queens and have them talk to the kids. You're so concerned about sexuality. What about all this crap that's going on there? And the Democrats want us to pay for it, and Kamala wants us to pay for sex change operations for prisoners who are on death row. It seems to me the choice is pretty clear for you there, Bruce and your followers. But you see, brothers and sisters, because listen, I'm not off the track here. This is exactly the message I wanted to bring to you here. That when you look at what we're voting for, it's the future of the country. So if you put in policies like President Trump has to say, you know what, parents are the primary educators of their children. And if they want to send their children, because they are believers, because they don't want their children to become sexual predators, they want them to learn virtue of the scriptures. So we're going to send them to a school that if the whole culture in that school is religion, and they hear about the commandments, and they read the Bible, and they pray, Lord, make me virtuous, President Trump is going to make that possible. School choice, it's called. When people who want to send their children to a religious school are not economically penalized in any way or penalized in any other way or discriminated against at all. So what gets a better outcome? Brothers and sisters, speaking in the, whether it's speaking in the pulpit, speaking up on the college campuses, President Trump said, listen, we're not going to fund a college with federal monies if what they do is they suppress the speech of those who might want to get up on the campus, set up a podium on the public walkways there, and preach and hand out literature as to why sexual immorality is in fact immoral. So what does President Trump end up being? What does he end up doing? If you're going to accuse him of some kind of past sin, don't you think that this more than justifies supporting him when what he's going to do in the future is exactly the opposite of that alleged sin? It's unbelievable how elections bring out the most stupid comments that you hear about or read about all year long. So, brothers and sisters, what we are talking about here is very similar to the Reagan-Carter choice. Somebody who's divorced, somebody who's not known to be particularly religious, although President Trump prayed with us pretty fervently the other day. No, it's not about that. It's about what kind of morality is going to be written into the law? What kind of morality is going to be written into the executive orders? What kind of morality is going to be written into the court decisions that are going to hold sway, not just for years, but for generations? For generations. Does this make no sense at all to some people? Is it really so far beyond our understanding to understand what the choice is? Okay, so what we are looking at here is, I want to give you a couple of late-breaking stories in terms of election integrity. So the RNC today sued the Milwaukee Elections Commission. Now listen, Milwaukee, we got a lot of great people. Wisconsin is a key swing state in this race, and God bless Wisconsin. But there is something really, there's a real stench in the city of Milwaukee, okay? Can we get the election corruption out of there once and for all? Maybe a bunch of us should really set up shop there and have round the clock efforts to public witness and shame these people. Are so corrupt. So the Milwaukee Elections Commission had a plan for the city to limit poll watchers in certain precincts on election day. Oh, no, guys, not so fast. So the co-chairs of the RNC, Michael Whatley and Laura Trump, said Wisconsin voters deserve to know that there are poll watchers from both parties in the room as votes are being cast and counted on election day. The RNC has not recruited and trained thousands of volunteers in the Badger State simply to back down from misguided officials who want to prevent a full measure of poll watching transparency. The lawsuit will compel officials in Milwaukee to ensure robust poll watcher access for the Republican Party. So the background is the Milwaukee Elections Commission announced just over the weekend that certain voting precincts might be limited to only one Republican and one Democrat poll watcher on election day. So what we have to ask is, why? You ignorant, corrupt people in Milwaukee making this kind of a decision. Why? Explain yourselves to the American public. We are people of freedom, and we've had enough of this garbage that you're going to try to limit the effort to just have free and fair elections. I bet Bruce is part of this. These are his people. Same party, same mindset. Yeah, you go on. Continue supporting these kinds of people. It's not America anymore with people doing things like this. Not America. Not America. That's why it's no exaggeration to say we're liberating our country tomorrow. That's what we're doing. We're liberating, we're claiming, reclaiming, taking back America tomorrow. Now, another election integrity matter arose in Georgia, and it was a victory. So I told you just the other day about the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals dealing with some of the southern states and saying, hey guys, election day is election day, and at the end of election day, the election is over. Okay, the election is over. You don't keep having elections after election day. So now Georgia has picked up on this, and the Supreme Court has just ruled in Georgia that ballots received after the election day deadline cannot be counted. Gosh, that's complicated, isn't it? So this comes now on the heels of the Fifth Circuit decision, which said, again, ballots received after election day cannot be counted. And like I explained to you the other day, this doesn't mean we don't want people to vote any more than we don't want people to drive when we say you got to have a license. All we're saying is the process needs to be legal. The other side doesn't care about that. Bruce, people like him don't care about that because there's no difference between a legal vote or an illegal vote, just like there's no difference between a legal immigrant and an illegal immigrant. There's no difference for these people between a peaceful protest and a violent riot. There's no difference for these people between a successful withdrawal from Afghanistan and a disastrous one. There's no difference for these people between an open border and a closed border. There's no difference with these people between a failed economy and a booming economy. Oh yeah, Bidenomics is working, Biden says, and Harris says, and Karine Jean-Pierre says. Oh, yeah, but they don't know the difference between a failing economy and a booming economy. And you know what else they don't know the difference between? A man and a woman. And they don't know the difference between killing a baby and reproductive freedom. That's why I read that passage at the beginning when Jesus said, Father, consecrate them in the truth. Consecrate them in the truth. These people reject truth. They reject truth. They reject it. They don't know what it is. They don't care what it is. They reject it. And let me see here. Comments here about Tim Walz. Yeah, you're going to miss his gesticulating all over the place. What is he doing when he goes on those stages anywhere? Anyway, what is he doing with the way he throws his hands around? Jumps up and down and bows to the crowd. It's really weird. All right. A few thoughts here. California. So Kamala voted in California. Well, actually, she said her ballot was on the way in. And one of the things on the California ballot is Proposition 36, Prop 36. And it's about increasing the penalties for crime. It's supported by the California Republicans. It's opposed by the lunatic Democrats. And what this would do is it would make changes to another proposition approved when Kamala Harris was the Attorney General. Approved in 2014, she was Attorney General from 2011 to 2017. Prop 47. Remember that whole story about, if you steal something, but it's less than $950, it's just a slap on the wrist, it's no big deal. It's above $950, it's a bigger deal. That's the Kamala way of thinking. She was in support of Prop 47 back in 2014. Now, this proposal now on the ballot would undo that ridiculous soft on crime approach. And instead, it would, well, among other things, increase sentences for theft based on the value of what was stolen. It would also do a couple of other things. Classify certain drug offenses as treatment-mandated felonies, increase penalties for certain drug crimes by increasing sentence lengths and level of crime, requiring courts to warn individuals convicted of distributing illegal drugs of their potential future criminal liability if they distribute deadly drugs like fentanyl, pouring across our border thanks to Harris. Heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines, and so forth. Okay. So the question arose, very simple question, of Kamala Harris. How did you vote? How did you vote on that measure? And she wouldn't tell us. Maybe if Bruce asked her, she would tell him. Bruce, go ahead and reach out to her, and you guys are on the same page. Go ahead and reach out to her and then let us know in the comments. How did she vote on this Proposal 36 in California? We don't know. And you know what her excuse was? She always has the lamest excuses. We should have a lamest excuses in human history award. I always thought it went to Aaron in the Bible, because when he was in charge of the people while Moses was up on the mountain getting the commandments, that's when they made the golden calf. And when Moses came down and he saw the golden calf and he was very upset by it, he said to Aaron, he says, "What happened here?" And he says, "Oh, well, they took the gold off the rings and they threw it in this furnace and this calf came out." I always thought Aaron had the reward for the worst lamest excuse in human history. But I think Kamala does even better than Moses. Oh, I mean, Aaron, I should say. Aaron. Oh, yeah, I think she does better. She wouldn't tell us, coward that she is, uninformed, ignorant, incompetent communist that she is. She wouldn't tell us how she voted on this proposal in California. And the lame excuse she used was, oh, it's the Sunday before Election Day. What? It's the Sunday before Election Day. What? How is that a reason not to tell us where you stand on an issue? Do any of you tell me? Because you're sending in a lot of good comments here. Well, Joe says, yeah. Well, why didn't she say I grew up in a middle class family? I mean, that's right. That would have been just as good an answer. But can any of you think of what is the Bruce? Where did you go? Come on, you can help us answer this. Where the heck did you go? Can any of you conceive of a logical connection between those two things? It's the Sunday before Election Day, so I can't tell you where I stand on an issue that, hey, a lot of voters are concerned about: crime, law and order. It's Sunday before Election Day, so I can't tell you about any of my positions. Are you going to talk about it? You're not going to talk on the Sunday before Election Day? You're not going to talk about anything? If you're going to talk about something, I mean, you're running for election, well, are you going to talk about where you stand on things? Oh, actually, the answer is no, because we don't know where she stands. Except that we know she says one thing one day and nothing the next day, and none of it really makes any sense anyway. It's a disgrace. We certainly know where President Trump stands on things, and boy, has he been coming out with some crystal clear policies. By the way, the Justice Department, just a couple of these things that, to sum up some of the very clear things. He's going to depoliticize the Justice Department. So these federal agencies are going to be instructed they cannot be using their resources or shaping their methodology based on political friends or enemies. The politics behind law enforcement, he has been the victim of this, and he is not going to tolerate it as the commander-in-chief. Secondly, obviously, closing the border. Closing the border. Number one law enforcement and security issue. He's got a 100-day plan to actually get that border closed and get out of our country the most risky migrants who are threatening you and your families. Get them out as a top priority. Iran, who's getting close to nuclear weapons. President Trump will use new United States sanctions against its oil and cash flow, more than $60 billion a year. Do we want this country developing a nuclear weapon? They are one of our biggest enemies. Threat to not only to the United States, but to Israel. Stopping the Ukraine war, President Trump has called this a needless war. He will work immediately upon being elected. He can be working on this the day after tomorrow, literally, the day after tomorrow. Working to end this needless war, working with the leaders of both countries. He knows how to do it. See, that's the thing. You've got somebody experienced, somebody just making promises. You got somebody experienced, not in some other job, experienced in this job, being president of the United States, and successfully so, in brokering world peace in more than one way. And then Washington spending. Elon Musk, bringing Elon Musk into the world of cleaning up government waste. Can you think of a better person? A more successful entrepreneur, a smarter person? My goodness. I mean, this is, President Trump said today in one of his posts, we are tomorrow going to start the 4 best years in American history. Think about that for a minute and put this in that perspective. The 4 best years of American history. This is going to be awesome. Now, should we have confidence? Let me get my clear things together here. Oh, yeah. Well, before we go into this, I want to look a little bit at the state of the race. Some of the little hints that we should be looking at, and reasons for confidence, not for slacking off, not for overconfidence, not for saying on election day, oh, we don't have to go out to vote because we've got this wrapped up. We don't have it wrapped up. We have got to go out by the, we already have been coming out in record numbers for the early voting. Early voting now is finished, but voting is not finished. And what we have to do, even if we have voted, is not finished. And I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. But just staying for a moment more on the policy issue, you know, President Trump has actually changed the entire dynamic of Republican-Democrat politics and policies. The Republican Party now is the party of free speech. You see, especially with the way that Tulsi Gabbard, who has come 100% behind President Trump, was one of the Democrat primary candidates for president just in the last cycle, and was the vice chair of the DNC, the Democrat National Committee. She was the vice chair. And now she's campaigning right next to President Trump and urging us to vote for him. Free speech is one of the reasons, RFK as well. They don't want the censorship. We don't want the censorship. Closing the border is yet another one that now, because of President Trump, he has reshaped. You know, when he first started talking about the immigration issue, when he first declared for the presidency back in 2015, people were saying, oh, what are you doing? That's not an issue of concern to the voters. Wow, have things not changed, right? Putting American workers first. You know, the Democrat Party used to have the reputation, oh, you know, the working man, you know, we're standing up for him. And then, of course, being the party, not of warmongering, the warmongers have now gone over to Kamala Harris. She's the one that's, oh, look, she's so proud of the Cheneys, you know, getting behind her. Republican Party, thanks to President Trump, has become the party that stands strong against warmongering. No new wars broke out under President Trump. And he's transformed the party in that way to stand up against these endless wars. Now, when we look at those changes, we also have to consider the practical reality of how far we have fallen. And Charlie Kirk pointed this out in his talks. I was with him the other night. I was on his show the other day. This is the first generation now, under the Biden presidency, worse off than their parents were. The first in American history. And when we say worst off, less likely to get married, have children, and own a home, and less healthy. They're more riddled with anxiety, more medicated, more depressed, and this is not what America is supposed to offer. They're the only ones who have ended up worse off than their parents were. We've got to turn that around, and we can turn that around. Look what President Trump is doing with RFK Jr. in terms of got Elon Musk to improve the economic situation and stop wasting all this government money, and you got RFK Jr. working to MAHA along with MAGA. You have MAHA, however you want to say it, Make America Healthy Again. He's going to help with that very, very strongly. The reason they hate President Trump, the left radicals, the deep state, is that he asks the right questions. Why are we sending American dollars overseas rather than using them to solve our own problems at home? Why are we opening the border? And why don't we make the products that we need and that we use right here at home? So there's a bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C., there has been for a long time, that's been on the wrong side of these issues. President Trump smashes that. He challenges that. And that's why you have, it's not just Democrat opposition, you have Democrats and certain Republicans in strong opposition to him because he's asking the right questions that are mobilizing the American people and building new coalitions. MAGA crowd, Republicans, and people like Tulsi and RFK Jr. and Elon, people who were very much on the Democrat side and now have come over to President Trump and his new version of the Republican Party. They're afraid of him, these deep state radicals, and they should be. I want to show you, speaking of Tulsi Gabbard, beautiful new ad that just came out. You might have seen it already. Let's play it. It's really, really instructive.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Aloha. I joined the Democratic Party over 20 years ago. I was 21 years old in Hawaii, and at that time, it welcomed people from all different backgrounds, different views, celebrated free speech, and actually defended those whose speech was being attacked, even if they disagreed with their views. It was a party that stood up for the little guy and represented our values of freedom and liberty in America. I left the Democrat Party because now it stands for the exact opposite of all of those things.
Free speech is not an absolute.
Social media sites, they are speaking to millions of people without oversight or regulation, and that has to stop.
I never would have imagined as an American and as a soldier that we would live in a country in my lifetime where we would feel like we have to self-censor what we say, that we couldn't criticize our own government for fear of them labeling us as a domestic terrorist. We are closer to the brink of World War III and nuclear war today than we ever have been before. directly because of the Harris-Biden administration's foreign policy. Too many Americans are struggling just to afford the basic necessities of life. No matter how many times we've heard Kamala Harris and Joe Biden over these last 4 years tout and celebrate how Bidenomics has been great for America,
America's economy is strong.
Polls consistently show that a majority of the American people disapprove of the president's handling of the economy.
Guess what? It's working.
Over half of Americans earning a six-figure salary report that they're actually living paycheck to paycheck. Bidenomics is working. It is actually working.
The number of homeless people on the streets and in shelters across the U.S. increased significantly this year.
Bidenomics is working.
it's almost as though they're speaking from an ivory tower, saying how great they are and patting themselves on the back, while people are struggling for crumbs on the streets. This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about choosing, we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
The Department of Defense, under Biden's authority, quietly codified its right to deploy lethal force against its own citizens on American soil.
I'm proud to endorse Donald Trump in this election because he is our best hope. Specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people, the party of equality, the party that was founded to fight against and end slavery in this country. It is the party of common sense and the party that is led by a president who has the courage and strength to fight for peace.
Mr. Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to ever set foot inside North Korea yesterday.
And this is why they will do everything possible to try to destroy him. Because this man has the courage to take them on and root out the deep rot of corruption in Washington. My message to my fellow Americans, regardless of your political affiliation, now is the time for us to stand together to save our country. A vote for President Trump is a vote for a big open tent party that welcomes people from all backgrounds and all walks of life. A vote for President Trump is a vote to express our deep love for our country and our appreciation for our God-given rights and freedoms enshrined in the Constitution. A vote for President Trump is a vote for secure borders and safe communities, and a vote for President Trump is a vote for peace here in America and around the world. Thank you so much.
Brothers and sisters, isn't that awesome? That is so wonderful. I'm going to get into some of the statistics of where we're at, or some of the trends, I should say, rather. And of course, we'll be hearing a lot of this. So I want to give you some pointers and tips about going into tomorrow spiritually and mentally. But let me show you something first. One of these comments here, I think I can put it here on the screen. David, wait a minute. Okay. David is saying blah, 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 because you're looking for vocabulary there. Did I miss the part about America having something called freedom of religion? Did that somehow change to America is going to shove ours down your throat, whether you like it or not? The answer is, yeah, that did change. It changed under the Democrats. I myself, I never thought I would be a petitioner at the U.S. Supreme Court, but I and my ministry and my team, we were under the Obama administration, actually, Obama-Biden. We were one of many, many religious groups that were under attack. And when I say attack, what I mean is that we were forced to be in a position where we had to consider whether we were going to follow the law or follow our faith. Now, those two for an American should never be in conflict. That's one of the essences of what freedom of religion means, that it should always be legal to carry out your religious beliefs, unless, of course, you're violating the fundamental rights of somebody. I mean, I think we would all agree that if a church came along and they said part of our worship of God is to sacrifice a baby on the altar, we're going to slit the baby's neck and the blood is going to be offered up to God. That's not the kind of freedom of religion. But if we can agree on something like that, you don't, in the name of freedom of religion, you don't kill or steal or anything like that. That's not freedom of religion. But provided that you're going to, respect everybody else's safety and rights. They did the opposite. You should never put your citizens in a position where they have to feel they have to choose between following the law and following their faith. But yet that's exactly what they did to us. That we had to, in our insurance policies that we provide for our staff, we employ 50 people here. They said you have to include certain forms of coverage for certain forms of abortion in your health insurance. And of course, neither we nor most other employers want to do anything like that. But they were forcing us. We had to go to court. In fact, you know who ultimately got us out of that? This was in the final years of the Obama administration. The election of President Trump himself got us out of that, because as we transferred into his administration, the case was still pending. And he said, you're not under that mandate anymore. And he resolved the whole thing. So yeah, it's the Democrats that are forcing. Now, when it comes to the whole issue of abortion, again, freedom of religion. Yes, we believe in freedom. In fact, President Trump did more for freedom of religion than any other president, both domestically and internationally. He had the first major summit under Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and he appointed Governor Sam Brownback, used to be governor of Kansas. I know him personally as well. He appointed him as an international ambassador for religious freedom. They had a big meeting at the United Nations. President Trump provided for training for federal employees that work overseas to train them how to see signs of religious discrimination and oppression and report it back to the government so that we could take the appropriate steps against that. But when it comes to the abortion issue, the Democrats have bills now that what they're starting to do is specifically explicitly exclude religious freedom. President Clinton, with bipartisan support under his presidency, signed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, this law that's still in place, great law, except that now the Democrat Party is starting to explicitly say, for example, in its federal bill on abortion that would take away any restrictions on the procedure, the bill explicitly excludes the RFRA, as it's called, Religious Freedom Restoration Act protections. So you've got President Trump and the Republican Party literally running on religious freedom, racking up a track record of defending religious freedom at home and abroad. And you've got the Democrats literally suppressing it. So the answer to your question, unfortunately, is yeah. We do have a situation where what's being thrust down our throats is that we're supposed to violate our religion or else get punished for it. So yeah, what you're raising actually is an argument in favor of what these hats represent. Because religious freedom is at the core of our country and our overall American freedom. And that's exactly what we're defending. All right, how are we doing? We're doing well. We are doing well. Have no doubt going into these last 24 hours when we are all going to do everything we can to get out more votes. I want you to think in terms of the fact, based on a lot of these things I'm saying here, that we are doing well with the way that it looks like this race is going. But we cannot be overconfident. In fact, nobody knows. You know what the basic problem when it comes to pundits, polls, and the very best of experts? You know what it all boils down to? An old truth that we all know very well. You just can't predict the future. In anything. You can't predict the future. So we don't know. Nobody knows what the results tomorrow night will be in any of these races. Can't predict the future. But you can see what certain numbers are saying. And if we look at that right now, what I want you to be mindful of is one of the most accurate pollsters last time around was Atlas Intel. Now, if they were accurate last time, doesn't mean they would be accurate this time. But they have President Trump up in the swing states. up in Nevada, up in Michigan, up in Pennsylvania, up in Wisconsin, up in North Carolina, up in Georgia, and up in Arizona. Now, another commentator was talking about Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada being the best, and then behind them, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. This brings President Trump well over the 270 electoral votes needed to win. And we also have some states that are close, not by any means guaranteed, but closer than comfort allows for the Democrats, let's put it that way, namely New Hampshire and Virginia and New Mexico. So those are three to watch in terms of that would be a surprise, but it's getting close to a possibility that they could swing over to President Trump as well. Now, you combine that with an interesting dynamic in terms of the popularity of the incumbent, because basically President Trump, he has a certain benefit of incumbency. When incumbency benefit is, hey, you see their record. Well, it could be a benefit, it could be a downfall, based on whether that record is good or bad in the eyes of the American people. But President Trump has a great track record of actually having been president. But Harris too she has an incumbency. She's currently the vice president. She's been standing side by side with Biden all these years, been part of every policy and decision, and she was in charge of the border. So in the minds of the voters, you can't separate Biden from Harris. It's the Biden-Harris administration. He's underwater in his approval. You know what underwater means when you talk about presidential approval ratings. If the numbers of people who disapprove of your job performance is greater than the numbers of those who approve, you are underwater. He's underwater by 15 points. Now, if an incumbent party, let's think of it in terms of party, because Biden is no longer on the ballot, Kamala is, but she's his vice president. If the party is 15 points underwater with their incumbent president, does that same party's candidate get reelected? And the answer historically is no. Look back to 2008, George W. Bush. His approval rating was down. He was at the end of his second term, but did a Republican succeed him? No, that was the year of the Obama election. Okay, so the party switched. That's what we're looking at here, a switch in party when the incumbent is underwater in the polling. How about in 1968, LBJ? His approval rating was negative. Did a Democrat succeed him? No. Go back further to 52, Harry S. Truman. His approval rating was in the 20s, if not upper teens. So did a Democrat succeed him? No, it flipped. So for Kamala to pull this off, she would have to buck this trend, which is a pretty strong historical trend, that when you have an unpopular incumbent, usually the American electorate wants to switch parties. It makes common sense. You combine that fact with the right track, wrong track numbers. It's not just the popularity or job approval of the incumbent. It's whether citizens think the country is going in the right direction. So right now, how many think it's going in the right direction? 28%. That's abysmally low. And has an incumbent ever been reelected when the country thought that it was going in the wrong direction by that much? And the answer is no. That is, again, a situation where you end up having a change in leadership, a change in the party. We're on track for all of those reasons for some pretty good outcomes tomorrow. We also have good movement in the United States Senate races. The math has always been good in this particular cycle. When you talk about who's going to control the U.S. Senate, it's called the math. You look at how many seats are up in the first place, okay? And then you look at how many of those are, Republican, how many of those are Democrat, how many of those are open races, how many of those are in safe districts, how many of those are in toss-up districts, states, we should say, as we're talking about the Senate. The bottom line is that the movement of the polling, you don't just look at the actual numbers of the poll outcomes, you look at who's gaining and who isn't. The movement is all in our direction, all of it for the U.S. Senate. So there are surges in Pennsylvania, in Nevada, and what this means is that when you have this kind of movement going on, we're on track to have at least 51, 52 Senate seats. Now, it would be nice if the majority was even greater than that, but we'll see. The movement is going in the right direction. There's also a surge. There has been a surge. First of all, the early voting numbers have been fantastic. See, what's happening now with the early voting numbers, we don't know how people voted. We know what party they were, however. The Republicans have come out to vote early in massive numbers, way more than ever before. I'm sure you've heard this already in the reporting during these days. The second thing to keep in mind about that is it's not cannibalization. What we mean by cannibalization is, Republicans usually come out on election day, but this time they came out earlier, but that doesn't mean they're gaining any more new votes because all you're doing is taking them from election day and having them vote early. Well, certainly a lot of people who would have voted on election day did vote early. But when you look at the numbers, one of the things you can tell, even though who they voted for is confidential, you can tell who these people were in terms of their voting in previous elections, and we are getting low propensity voters coming out, which is consistent with what President Trump has tended to do in his previous election bids. He brings out low propensity voters. He motivates people who aren't voting every year, or maybe have never voted before, maybe haven't voted in decades. That's what brought him over the finish line the first time he ran. And that's what gave him more votes than any sitting president ever got the second time he ran. So certainly it's going to help him again this time more than probably the past two combined. The low propensity, what that means, in other words, is very simple conclusion to all this when you look at the numbers in detail. Let me just bring it down to the finish line here. If we get out there and vote, if we, in the next 24 hours, get the people that we know who haven't voted yet and who might not vote, and we convince them to vote, we win. We win. Because what I'm saying is, the other side, the Democrats, don't have the numbers of registered voters to overcome our lead. See, what we've done is usually what ends up happening is that because the Democrats like early voting so much and they've been in the habit of doing it longer than we have, they racket up this big lead prior to election day. So we're sitting here on the night before election day, and they've got this big lead in all the states, and we've only had a few people come out and early vote. So what we've got to do is run and catch up on election day. Well, there's a built-in disadvantage to that, right? It's like in a race, I'm going to just stand here while my opponent goes running, and I'll catch up with you later. But that's not that way this time. We're running, in fact, in many states ahead of them. Not only in the actual early voting, and again, we're bringing out low propensity voters, which means we've got the numbers to totally overcome the Democrat margins if we come out and vote. Right now, a lot of these votes have been cast. But as far as what remains to be cast, it's numbers on a paper right now. That's the whole business now in the next 24 hours is translating that into actual votes. But we're in good shape in that sense, if we carry it out. Not if we say, we're in good shape and then we sit home. All right. But let me give you some other numbers too, also encouraging, about the surge in voter registration. Now, we've seen this for the last few years here in Florida. The number of registered Republicans has far surpassed the number of registered Democrats. But we're seeing this surge in all kinds of other states as well. And When you see a surge in Republican voter registration, we have it here in Florida. Like I say, it's in Pennsylvania. It's happened in Pennsylvania. It's happened in Nevada. I'm going to give you some numbers. What does that mean when somebody either switches over or registers new in a particular party? There is a 90% chance that they are going to vote for the top of the ticket. In other words, for all practical purposes, new registrations under R mean President Trump votes for all but a small percentage of cases. So therefore, look at these numbers. In North Carolina, the Democrat registration advantage fell for the Democrats from 399,000 to only 113,000. In Pennsylvania, the Democrat advantage dropped from 686,000 to 281,000. In Arizona, the Republicans now have the advantage to the tune of 259,000 registered voters. And in Nevada, the Dems have dropped dramatically from 111,000 advantage to 45,000. Things are moving in our direction. What does that mean? That does not mean complacency or relaxing. That means pushing all the harder, but with confidence. All right. Don't be surprised, brothers and sisters, about the last minute tricks. Just ignore it. The last minute, there's going to be there have been already, there's going to be all sorts tomorrow. Don't even pay attention to it. These last minute stories about, oh, look, there's a Kamala surge over here. Oh, look, there's a Democrat advantage over here. Oh, look, it looks like it's Ignore it all. Nothing matters other than the actual numbers that we are seeing in the registrations and in the votes, because that's the actual behavior of the voters. Opinion polls, that's just what somebody said on the telephone or online. That's not counted on election night. The votes, they are what's counted. So it's a psychological game. It's a numbers game and it's a psychological game. Don't be fooled by the psychological nonsense and tricks and games that are going to go on tomorrow. All day long, it'll be happening. Ignore it. All right. Let me say a few more practical things, and then I'm going to show you a new version of God Bless the USA. You'll be inspired, and then we'll pray. Wouldn't it be wonderful if not only President Trump gets an electoral victory, that's what determines who wins the White House, but if he gets the popular vote as well? We don't elect the president by popular vote with very good reason, so that the liberal cities don't overwhelm smaller conservative districts and states. We don't elect people by popular vote. We never have. It doesn't make any sense to do it that way. That's not the kind of system our founders established. These are United States. If you're going to start saying we should elect president by popular vote, you're going to have to revise a whole lot more than the Electoral College. Okay, these are United States. These are 50 different state elections going on tomorrow. It's not one national election, 50 different state elections. So basic civics has to come into play here. We got to relearn in many cases the reason for the way it's set up the way that it is. But what I'm saying is that doesn't mean it isn't important to also win the popular vote. And you know how President Trump wins the popular vote? If everyone who supports him gets out and votes, including in the states that they know are not going to go to him with the electoral votes, most likely. Trump supporters in California, in Illinois, in New York. But you see why he had those great rallies in New York? There's a lot of Trump supporters in these very blue states. It would be a big mistake for them to think, oh, well, I'm in a blue state. The electoral votes are going to go to Kamala Harris, so I'm not going to vote. I don't have to vote. I'm not going to vote for President Trump. Yes, you do. First of all, you got to vote all the way down ballot because we can win back the House, or rather, win back the House. We already have the House, but we got to increase the margin in the House by electing the Republican members of Congress. But you see, the point is that by giving him also the popular vote, what you avoid is the moralizing of the Democrats after a Trump victory in the Electoral College, and they'll say, oh, but he didn't win the popular vote, you see? And then they try to undercut for 4 years of his presidency everything he tries to do. Oh, you don't have a mandate from the people. Most people didn't vote for you. Let's take that away from them this time. All of you who are in state, maybe you didn't vote because you're in a blue state and you figure, oh, the state's going to go to Kamala anyway. No, that's not all that matters. Show the support. Let the support be counted, because the popular vote is in fact counted, even though it's not determinative. It's counted, and it's used as a talking point, and it's used as a moralizing point, and it's used to make the Democrats feel superior. Oh yeah, we got the popular vote. Take that away from them. All right, that's my. But by the way, because if he wins the presidency but doesn't win the popular vote, let me tell you what that's going to start fueling. That's going to fuel an effort called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. We've had some shows about this in the past. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is a dangerous effort to skirt around the constitutionally established Electoral College by saying, oh, well, the states are going to agree by some kind of compact that they'll award their electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote. First of all, that's fraught with all kinds of practical difficulties to carry out. We won't get into that in detail now, but it's going to be, that effort is dangerous because, again, it takes away the minority voices in our country. There are entire states that are drowned out via population just by the city of New York or the city of Los Angeles, and certainly by the both of them combined. So we have to be very careful where we go with this, but it's a real thing. It's been supported by a lot of states. It's driven by the Democrats, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and those other radical communists. They want to get rid of the Electoral College because they don't believe in the Constitution, because they don't believe in America, because they don't believe in freedom. But all I'm saying is, we can counteract even an effort like that indirectly by taking away from them the talking point that, oh, you see, we won the popular vote. I want to see that taken away from them tomorrow night. All right. A few other practical things. All right. I'm going to give you a couple of links. We're going to go to this song first. Lee Greenwood. I was with him over the summer. We were together, of course, at the Republican National Convention. What a great guy. Oh my goodness. Lee Greenwood. God bless the USA. He just released, you probably haven't seen this yet. I just saw it for the first time a couple hours ago. A new version, kind of a rock version of God Bless the USA. I want to play it for you. And then we'll come back and I'm going to give you a few practical points, and then we'll pray. Let's watch and let's pray and sing together God Bless the USA in this newest version.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. And thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no
Praise the Lord for that. Well, how beautiful. Brothers and sisters, a couple of practical things. ProLifeVote.com, that is our election website. Just to make it super simple for people tomorrow who may be some of those low propensity voters, hey, what do I do? Where do I go? You'll see right at the top of that action item alert box, find your sample ballot here, just the first two things, and find your polling place here. I put it so that those links go to websites. They're not our own sites. They are well-established sites that will help people find their sample ballot, because our appeal to people is not just to cast your ballot, but study your ballot first. So you don't want you going in a voting booth and sort of rolling the dice or throwing darts in the dark. We want you to look at your ballot first and study it. ProLifeVote.com. And by the way, while you're there, if you haven't during this election season really taken a good look at our Pro-Life Vote site, you're going to find so much stuff there, not only for this election, which concludes tomorrow night, but for future elections also. But those are the two links. I wanted to point that out to you so that as you're helping other voters, you can point them here, okay? You find your sample ballot and find your polling place. Okay. Secondly, in about an hour from now, President Trump will be having the final rally of this presidential election season. And I want to watch it. I want you to watch it. Invite other people to watch it. He's going to be up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. You might remember he did this when he was first elected in 2016, late night before Election Day rally in Michigan. And of course, he carried Michigan that year. Let's do that again tomorrow. He's up in Michigan. Grand Rapids at 10:30, just a little more than an hour from now. And watching all the President Trump rallies, by the way, we have a special website called PresidentTrumpRallies.com, and you can go and watch the past ones there as well. And finally, and thank you for sticking with me for such a long time tonight. Remember, tomorrow I'll be with you. Well, Janet will be with you at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time for a special message. I'll be with you for a special scripture reflection at 10. And then we'll be with you at 3 p.m. tomorrow, Election Day, with a special time of prayer to bring this victory home. But do everything you can to reach out to voters. And I want to let you know some good news. I don't know what your cell phone carrier is, but I want to encourage you today to switch over to Patriot Mobile, because they are part of the parallel economy. And brothers and sisters, to save this nation, not only do we need to cast our votes in a way that maintains our values, we need to spend our dollars in a way that maintains our values. And Patriot Mobile is the only company that does that. But I want to give you a special address to use because we are now partners with them. So patriotmobile.com/unborn. That's our Priests for Life partnership page with Patriot Mobile. And if you sign up for their service, by the way, perfect. They use the same towers that the other companies use. You're going to get, the towers that you're using now. Patriot Mobile, patriotmobile.com/unborn. That's our promo code, unborn. And they support groups like ours. They support the mission for pro-life. They support the mission for First Amendment, conservative values in America. And please consider switching over to them, because you'll be helping us and similar other groups while you pay a cell phone bill that you have to pay anyway. So patriotmobile.com/unborn. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of closing clips, and then I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Tomorrow can be the most important day in American history. And it can be if we carry out our duty to get as many more voters out as possible. It could be one of the best days of our lives. We're going to liberate America tomorrow. Let's do it. God bless you, friends. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your grace. Thank you for your word. Thank you for freedom. Thank you for this nation. We sum up all our prayers for each other, for President Trump, and for victory tomorrow. We sum up our fervent prayers in the words that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, quadruple MAGA. Let's go forward and let's win. God bless you.
I started, and then there were none, in 2012 to create an exit strategy for abortion industry workers. Our team provides a support system like no other. With our support, they finally find the peace, joy, and freedom they've been missing in their lives. And we will continue this work one by one until there are none.
Hello, I'm Dr. Alveda King, board member of Priests for Life. More money is being spent in America to kill babies in the womb than to save them. Together, we need to change that, and today I want to invite you to support our work at Priests for Life. Why ours rather than other groups? Because we have a unique team that helps lead in every arena of the fight against abortion, and we activate the churches where you find people who are most likely to get involved in that fight. To awaken a pastor about abortion is to awaken thousands of people he serves. We do not receive church funding or government grants. We rely on you for individual donations. We have a very high evaluation among charities and top security on our donation site, prolifegift.org. You can go there for a one-time gift or to become a monthly donor, or you can call us at 321-500-1000.
In various states this fall, measures will be on the ballot to increase the numbers of abortions, to make it easier to get an abortion and to have abortions performed later in the pregnancy. This is one of the procedures that would be made legal. The baby, as you can see, is dismembered step by step. Arms and legs torn off. Head eventually crushed. These are babies who could survive outside the womb. These are babies who feel pain. Do you think this procedure should be legal? If not, vote against the abortion amendments.
Hi, Jenna Morana here. And you know what? When Christmas comes, sometimes people have lost a grandparent or a parent. And for children, it's difficult to say, like, where are they? This brand new book by Anthony DeStefano, Christmas in Heaven, is awesome. It is a grandfather telling his grandson where grandma is. And you know what? It takes a special focus on saints. There are 25 saints that are highlighted in this beautiful story, and all the saints are doing different things up in heaven. And you know what? November 1st is All Saints Day. Maybe you'd like to get a copy of this book early. Go to the link, order it today. Christmas in Heaven by Anthony DeStefano.
Follow him, Father Frank Pavone, Fr. Frank Pavone. He is the National Director of Priests for Life. Please go to priestsforlife.org.
Frank Pavone. Frank, thank you very much.